Yeah, thank you. I just want to, I know you don't want to get ahead of the president's budget, but just
The theme of the day.
yes, just taking this top line number of nearly $3 trillion in deficit reduction over 10 years, still the deficit is going to be huge over the next 10 years, and billions or trillions of dollars will be added to the national debt. There are critics who I've spoken to who say that this budget, although a statement of priorities, doesn't go far enough in dealing with the structural problems that the United States faces fiscally. So, I mean, the president has expressed concerns about the deficit. Does he think his budget goes far enough?
So look, let's let the president speak to his budget tomorrow. We'll lay that out, and he can speak to that. But you just said something, Tam, that is so important, which is, yeah, you know, the last administration added $3 trillion or $2 trillion to the debt when they put forward a really irresponsible piece of legislation that gave tax breaks to the wealthy, especially millionaires and billionaires, right? That is something that we have had to deal with, and we have to really call that out. And that continues. That continues with this current Congress, where Republicans are saying that they want to they want to cut or get rid of or repeal IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, which would add to that deficit, because we know the Inflation Reduction Act actually lowers the deficit by more than $200 billion. So we are trying to counter and really be fiscally responsible in what we're seeing on the other side. And so here's the thing. The American people support what we're doing, and there is a choice to be made. How do we move forward here? How do we make sure that it is what we're putting forward in this budget is fiscally responsible? That's what you're seeing from this president. And he has said over and over again in the last 3 years or more that he wants to make sure that we are reducing the deficit. I'm not going to get ahead of the president tomorrow. He's certainly going to lay out his budget. He will go point by point on how he sees this is a budget that is important to the American people, and just not going to get ahead of that. I think it's good news that we went from $2 trillion over a decade now to $3 trillion, and that's because his team went through the budget and realized, hey, we can actually, this is going to be an extra $1 trillion in lowering the deficit in the next decade, and that shows how committed his team is and how committed the president is as well.
Just one other small question, and I realize this was probably asked yesterday, but is the White House treating this as a major address, or is this a typically a budget gets rolled out and it's just like a big paper dump and maybe like a small speech in a small room, and this is the president going to another city. So are you treating this budget unlike other budgets?
I think the way to see this budget is that the president wants to lay out in a transparent way to the American people how he sees us moving forward as it relates to the fiscal year, as it relates to the budget. And I keep saying this because it's true, in the fiscal responsible way. And we hear Republicans in Congress talking about how they're going to release a budget. And we are calling on them to show us what's in your budget. How is it going to be transparent? Is it going to be fiscally responsible? And the thing that makes us really speak to this even more is because they have talked about, as you all have reported, in cutting some programs that are incredibly, 2 programs and more that are incredibly important to the American people: Social Security, Medicare, ACA, Medicaid. That's what they're saying they want to move forward with. And the president is saying, you know what, I'm going to continue fighting for the American people. I'm going to continue fighting for taxpayers who have paid into these programs since they started their first job, some of them as teenagers. And so we're going to continue to call that out. And this also plays into how the president is growing an economy that works for all. So that is important to the president. He thinks it's important to the American people, and he's going to lay that out tomorrow.